It's been a while. Just me, you, and a giant bag of Patriots mailbag questions. Shout out to everyone who dropped a line over on Twitter and Blue Sky. Much appreciated. It is Tuesday in the week before free agency, which is always this like weird down period as you were coming off of a combine high or a high or just a buzz. I don't even know if it's like a full high. Free agency, though, we know is all going to take us soaring into the sky with all of the Patriots signings and rumors and news. Well, I am stapled to my phone and laptop to provide you with the latest news and whatever happens. In the meantime, we're going to spend time on you because I asked for all your questions and I said we have probably 80% of them here today because, look, you guys really wanted to get into the combine, how things have changed for the Patriots draft, free agency targets. The 20% we didn't get to, God bless you. Those of you out there who really want to know about Todd Downing as a Patriots receiver. But there are not enough of you for me to take time on this podcast because we, even though it's a shorter mailbag episode, have a lot of stuff to get to. So if I'm really going to dive into the free agency strategy or where things stand for the Patriots number 4 in the draft, where my opinion, by the way, has changed since the last time we spoke, and I'll explain why in a minute, I want to spend time on those things. I also want to spend time telling you that this Friday night, you need to clear your calendar. And it's not because we will have a live episode out. It's not even because on Saturday, we will get highlights of this 4-hour episode coming to you Friday night via my socials, Doug Kyde's socials, and Fitzy's socials. And you know those guys have been on the pod plenty of times. And you know we've also had people like Bill Barnwell, Tom Curran, Devin McCourty. All of those guys are coming together at once. Plus Field Yates, plus Mike Reese, Michael Hurley, and Megan Donalini. We are having a monster pre-agency party talking Patriots and Patriots only from 7 to 11 this Friday. Come join us on all of our social pages, all the CLNS social pages. You ask your questions, we give you answers, all in the name of raising money for cancer research. So if you have time, if you've got a spare lonely beer in the fridge, grab that beer, sit back, watch, enjoy, and donate if you want your question answered. If you donate money to cancer research, we will give you an answer and stay up as long as possible to get you those answers. In the meantime, all of the guests I just listed, Field Yates, Devin McCourty, Mike Reese, Taylor Kyles, Tom Curran, Michael Hurley, Megan Donalini, and Bill Barnwell of ESPN are all going to hang out for 15 minutes. I dare you to find a single podcast or live stream anywhere that's going to have a lineup like that. So later this week, again, we will repurpose this as a second episode of Pat's Interference this week. But I encourage you, come hang out. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, hell, the whole 4 hours. We would love to see you. We would love to hear from you. And of course, as we raise money in the name of cancer research, which I will be doing more actively on this podcast, and Doug as well, details to come, please come hang out. This is going to be an awesome, awesome event. You've heard these people on the pod. You've listened to them and surely read them, except for Michael Hurley. Hopefully not, fingers crossed. So anyway, 7 to 11, Friday night, come hang out. In the meantime, we're doing this mailbag again to hype up that event. But what I want you to know is we're not going to do a mailbag for a while. So I will get to, again, the questions here now. In the meantime, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so @_Andrew Callahan. If you have not rated or reviewed this podcast, we're running a little dry here. And I told you before, even the 3 stars, 4 stars, if that's really how you feel, we welcome the feedback. It helps us get better. Okay. So leave us a note. Apple, Spotify, rate and review, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And 7 to 11 this Friday night, you'll see it all across social media. Come hang out, grab a beer, ask the questions. We're going to talk Pats with some of the best people in the business. And again, plus Michael Hurley. All right. I teased this earlier, but I have flip-flopped. Personal news, some would say, if we wanted to be a little dramatic and tease this in a tweet. Will Campbell, who had a tiny, tiny place with tiny, tiny arms in my heart, heading into the number 4 overall pick. I said, don't overlook this. His tape is excellent. I spent a lot of hours, and I don't totally regret now watching Will Campbell tape saying, set it and forget it. Well, Will Campbell set the combine, just like I was, just like Doug was. Again, listen to that episode if you have not. Everything the Patriots plan to do, are doing, preparing to doing, plus some ugly 2024 leftovers are in that story and podcast episode. But Will Campbell was not hanging out the Starbucks. He was having his entire body measured and testing as the top 5 offensive lineman in all these drills, which is super impressive. The issue is now for me, not the fact that he has shorter arms, which offensive tackles can overcome, but he is in the 7th percentile for arm length for an offensive tackle at the combine. His wingspan is also the shortest on record since about 2010, 2011. And according to our pal, Mike Giardi, there have been 100 and I don't know, some odd 80, I think, offensive linemen taken in the last 10 years in the first round and the second round. Of those 180, whatever, only 21 have come in with arms and a wingspan like Will Campbell. Of those 21, just a lonely single lineman has gone on to play tackle. So if the Patriots look and go, Will Campbell's great. He's mobile. He's athletic. He only gave up 2 sacks and 38 starts. Okay. He'll be a long-term NFL starting offensive lineman. I go, I agree. Where I would pivot now, though, is that even if that comes at tackle, I'm not willing to take that risk that he becomes this outlier success story. And God bless him, all the best. Because in New England, that number 4 overall pick, you have to hit on it. And history would tell you, guys who have those arms, 32 and 5/8 inches at offensive tackle, do not succeed often enough. And the Patriots cannot afford to have that type of risk, even if he's an athletic freak with excellent tape, good football character, yada, yada, yada. I just think eventually, like most of basically all of the players to come before him with those measurements as offensive linemen, he'll have to kick in at guard. And there are smart people that disagree. Pre-combine, at least, Daniel Jeremiah, Dean Brugler out there. But to me, if you're the Patriots and you cannot whiff at number 4 and you just need to get a good impact player that you can project as a 10-year starter, ideally at a position in need, but you know what? Go best player available. There are others out there. And I am still on board with Mason Graham, more than I expected to be. This is kind of the inverse of the Will Campbell. And you might go, well, he weighed 296 pounds at the combine. Why are you still on him? Well, first of all, there's nothing you, I, or Will Campbell can do about the length of our arms. That's just what it is. If you are a grown adult, if I'm talking to you and you're 18 or older, that's it. Mason Graham, however, can put on 5 pounds. He can put on 10 pounds. He can put on 15 pounds if he wanted. And I have it on good authority. And Mason Graham played at 310 pounds last year at Michigan. When you looked and go, whoa, that's a guy who destroyed Ohio State and Oregon in Washington, plug and play starter in the NFL, and now universally regarded as a top 10 pick. Most people have him in the top 5, at least on the media side. League folks I spoke to say, yep, he's a beast. Block, destroyer, force in the run game, and average 3 pressures per game, obviously on passing situations. So he lost a little bit of weight training. He got hurt, which is why he did not test at the combine. So it does not surprise me, having walked all of those hallways at Indianapolis and sometimes upward of 6, 7, 8 miles per day around the combine doing my job, that a guy who is going to be a top 5, top whatever pick gets shuttled around, loses a couple extra pounds in the process, and oh no, all of a sudden, because of our affinity for numbers that end in 0 and 5, 296 is some kind of problem. He could sit here and eat whatever amount of food by the end of this podcast and be back up to 300. I'm not worried about this. I think he's an excellent player. I'm not sold on him or any particular player. Right now, the Patriots are number 4, but unfortunately, I've been adieu to that tiny piece of my heart in that gold and purple jersey. Will Campbell, all the best. Here's hoping you're not the left tackle for the New England Patriots, but if you are, wherever you play, I hope you dominate, because until this point, you were my favorite prospect and fit for the Patriots. So with that, it's time to get back to you. We have, I think over a dozen questions here from, again, Twitter and Blue Sky. You can also email me anytime, acallahan@bostonherald.com. Let's get to it. Joe Ishadi, who's been on the show, by the way, and we are actually, someone asked me this, I think it was on Twitter. Am I going to open the mail fan segment again, where you donate to cancer research or some nonprofit, and then you get 5-10 minutes on the show? Yes, but more details are going to come at the end of the month. In the meantime, if you want to help out, if you want to be heard, Friday night, 7-11, live show, a lot of promotion coming. Anyway, back to Joe. Quote, how do you see next week playing out for the Patriots timing-wise? Will there be announcements right in the 12 p.m. hour? Will that only be the big names? Will they wait out the middle tier in the days that follows? Thank you. So Joe's talking about free agency, which I didn't know this until I was doing TV last night. And Felger, of all people, was a stickler for the new term in the NFL, although we were laughing about it. It's not the legal tampering period anymore, the window. It is the legal negotiating period, of which there's plenty of illegal negotiating or tampering going on. I can tell you that for a fact. To answer Joe's question, I think you will hear, like most years, maybe not 12:01, but starts to trickle out 12:30, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, certainly by 3 p.m., you will start to see some of the biggest free agents, whomever's left available. Again, Chris Godwin's still going to be a free agent, won't be tagged or expected to be. Take that back. He's tracking to be a free agent. The expectation is Tampa's going to bring Chris Godwin back. Anyway, players like Ronnie Stanley, Milton Williams, I would be very surprised if they are still unclaimed or undecided or haven't reached terms by the mid-afternoon on Monday, when this legal negotiating period will open. The league year officially opens when you can finally put pen to paper Wednesday at 4 p.m. But for all intents and purposes, if you don't land your free agents by Wednesday at 4 p.m., you're not going to have any big names left. Now, as I've said here, or at least written, that's the most important part. That lives forever. You can go find it and double check. The Patriots are going to come heavy with these big offers. That does not mean that those players, these free agents, are going to take them. They're also going to come heavy after mid-level veteran guys that they see as being either really good values or guys that you can plug and play in Vrabel's system in a way that you can't with your current roster. So you might get a deal for a guy who's not in the top 25, top 30, maybe top 50, that they come in first. And what that says, of course, is that they really prioritize this player. And you might not be as excited. And this isn't me, throwing water in your expectations. You feel however you want to feel. But my point is, their list at the top is not the list that you'll find at NFL.com or PFF or all these different places ranking the top however many free agents, okay? So if they sign guys not considered to be top 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever, don't panic. It doesn't mean that they've been taken off the board. It just means those negotiations were easier because I know and I can tell you, Vrabel especially is really in on some of those mid-level defenders set to hit the market. Lawrence D. Hey, Andrew, if there are only 2 blue chip players in the draft, does it really matter if you take a guy at 4 who people thought would go 8 to 12? I guess it depends on who you're asking. Like, I think when we get into the draft, some people weigh the perception of the pick. How will the fan base react? How will ownership react? There is some sort of, job saving, or there's some urgency here by GMs and coaches. For example, like the Giants pick at 3. They need a quarterback, but if Brian Dable and Joe Shane know that they're not going to be back in 2026 unless they have a winning season, well, why are you going to draft Shedeur Sanders, who some teams reportedly don't even have a first round grade on? Now, if the flip side is ownership might be more understanding with a new quarterback, then you go, oh, he buys us time. Like there is some projection, or I don't want to say projection, some insertion of your own selfish motivations with some of these picks. But for the most part, the PR stuff, which I think you're asking about, is no, it doesn't matter. And to that point, I would say after Mason Graham and a couple other players who, again, we'll talk about as we get closer to the draft, that the Patriots are in on, I'm becoming more of an advocate of a trade back. And that's because of what you mentioned there, Lawrence. It's Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and then a bit of a drop off. But I would not be willing to go outside the top 10 because in discussions with league people and an AFC scout that Doug talked to this week, they see a drop off around 8 to 9. Not all teams agree, but to me, if you're the Patriots at 4 and you go, we're happy with Mason Graham or Tyler Warren or Ted McMillan or whomever, I don't care. Let's just move back. Now you need a partner, you need some interest, and obviously to reach some terms. But even 4 to 6, based on modern trade value charts, it's a 3rd round pick you're putting in your pocket. That 3rd round pick might be enough draft capital to get a trade done if the Patriots are trying to swing something on draft day, which again I think they should. Jordan, quote, what % chance do the Patriots strike out on acquiring top weapons in free agency? I'm putting it at 75%. I think that's fair. A little bit of the anchor effect going on here, right? Like I see your number. I'm not going to jump wildly outside of it. Doesn't mean you're right. It just means I have a hard time thinking of a different number outside of that range. But I also look and say, if you're talking about real weapons, there's Chris Godwin, and you don't have a big tight end class. You do in the draft. Running back would be your only other weapon there, and they're pretty happy about it. And all the team people look at Reminder Stevenson and go, hey, you committed the cardinal sin, but how many times did you have to dodge blockers and get hit from behind? Didn't really know. So he's getting a pass. And what are the odds that I would say they land Chris Godwin? Pretty low. Because again, I think he's going to go back. But if he doesn't, they're going to try to throw a bag at him. And I think he's a player that they should covet and will covet on multiple levels of come help fix our locker room, come for the back end of your prime, fix a position of need, and of course, boost a premium position. So it depends on your definition of those weapons. To me, Chris Godwin's the only surefire target now that T. Higgins has received the franchise tag. And you could argue for, other guys. What we've told you, they're out at Amari Cooper. They're out on Stephon Diggs. And you want to get into Darius Slayton's of the world, fine. It doesn't change my life. It's still an upgrade if you're the Patriots. And the more names you include, obviously, the lower that percentage goes. But you want to say anywhere between 70 to 90%. I think that's fair. And I think that's why you're also hearing a whole lot now about the trade market, which is interesting because we know the team doesn't want to give up picks in salary space for a big receiver. But right now, aside from banking on one of these draft prospects becoming your starting X receiver and balling out in year 1, that's the only way you're going to get a receiver, a big-time receiver at least, a weapon, as you put it. is via trade. Dougie, what is my ideal free agency outcome for the Pats? Stanley, Godwin, Slayton, Dahlman, if Andrews can't go, Bolton or Jones, Carlton Davis, Milton Williams, safety. This is longer than the grocery list I took to the store yesterday. An edge would be perfect. Don't expect that. Would definitely fill holes. Yeah, Dougie, I don't think there would be any holes. I think you'd have a surplus if you had all those players. I would say for me, the list starts with Ronnie Stanley. And I pitched this, I think on Brian Barrett's podcast, which you should all listen to off the pike over with the Ringer today. 2-year deal for Ronnie Stanley. And you say you hit the market again, a guy who's going to turn 31 in a couple of days here. But in the meantime, not only will we give you more money than the Ravens are offering, whatever other teams are approaching you, we're going to guarantee a higher percentage of that. Because what we know about Ronnie Stanley, in addition to being somewhere between the 8th and, 15th best tackle in the league, well, obviously he's coming off a really good season, been an all-pro before, 2-time Pro Bowler, is that sometimes he gets hurt. And I'm lower than consensus on the concern about that because there's one really bad ankle injury, and then he misses like 2 to 3 games per year on average. That's fine for a position the Patriots really need to fix. So what you say is we're going to guarantee upwards of 80%, maybe 90% of that salary, going $20 million a year, maybe a little bit north of that, because when you do get injured, and you will, we will still pay you. And I don't think you're going to get that kind of deal from a lot of different teams where, especially when you get to 3-year deals, like the third is just a placeholder. It's all funny money. It's non-guaranteed. First 2 for high caliber players, especially top of the market in free agency, lock it in. Like that money is as good as gold right away. Patriots say, hey, through the end of your contract, in this case, a 2-year deal, there's not going to be full guarantee in year 1, and then so in year 2. We're going to guarantee virtually all of this. Take it or leave it. If you need a 3rd year, fine. Maybe we guarantee half of that. So Ronnie Stanley, you know how I feel about Chris Godwin. I'm open to the DK Metcalf trade. I would like the Patriots to add a corner. You didn't list one here, Dougie, but Charvarius Ward, we know is on their list. I like Byron Murphy from Minnesota. Nate Hobbs is a corner who's primarily lived in the nickel spot, can also play outside. When he's healthy, he's a big-time playmaker. So some of those guys are on my list. Darius Slayton, fine. Milton Williams, I think, is the most likely to sign of all of these free agents, especially the guys at the top, because you're getting him entering his prime. Guys entering free agency for the first time on these second contracts tend to go wherever the most money is. We know the Patriots have the most money, so that more or less answers your question. Gary, can't have roster turnover Vrabel has insinuated with only additions. Patriots have 5 receivers already. Can you rank them from most likely to be gone before the draft to least likely? Or if there are no receiver subtractions at all, a quote Caliban, if you will, and he'll see himself out. Good, Gary. This is first Caliban goes to you, sir. Okay, so we're ranking receivers based on most likely to go, and let's just take the draft timeline out of this. Let's just say cut down day based on the receivers the Patriots had from 1 to 5, 1 being most likely, 5 being least. Number 1, Javon Baker, and this is someone who people with the team and around the league say, hey, he's still their most talented receiver. Like there's untapped potential there because Tyler Hughes was not suited to be a receivers coach in the NFL. And Javon Baker deserves to be knocked for, as we've often said, having just 1 catch, the same number as the left tackle did last year. But I would put him on this list, 4th-round rookie who had character concerns coming in, validated some of those with Instagram lives, tweets, posts, pulled over at Logan, blaming the cops, telling him, I pay your salary, yada, yada. He's a little bit more motivated, but I'm not guaranteeing anything. Number 2 to me would be Kayshon Boutte. And this is not anything personal to Boutte, who was productive last year in a certain type of role. But if the Patriots are going to sign Devontae Adams, who get cut today, and I don't think that's going to happen. He wants to go West Coast. The stuff with Josh McDaniels did not end well, no matter what else you hear in Vegas. They want an X receiver. That's basically the only place that Kayshon Boutte plays. And he doesn't do it that great. He's a 4, maybe a 5, but he's not blocking as your primary Z receiver. You're not putting him in the slot. So the way they're looking to adjust or revamp the receiver room is to put someone in his spot. So he comes in at number 2. Number 3 is Jalen Polk. You might be going, where was he at number 2? Fine, make your own list. My list says he's a 2nd-round pick, like Baker, and a little bit more so. You have believers in him in the building. He's someone who has played inside now and actually had a good training camp. It wasn't until bleep hit the fan during the season, and I think he's responsible for a lot, his attitude, his work ethic. And some guys in their early 20s, same here, had to grow and mature and learn how to be a professional. He has to do that. But 2nd-round picks get a longer leash than a 4th-round pick and a guy entering his 3rd year who still doesn't have a dominant trade in Kayshon Boutte. Number 4, Kendrick Bourne, proven receiver. There's no real benefit to cutting him for cap concerns. He sticks around, happy to be a 3, a 4, whatever. He's done it for years. Number 5 is Pop Douglas, who I know the Patriots are very excited about getting with Josh McDaniels. And he's still got some zone stuff to figure out, his feel. You saw him not be on the same page with Drake May, who, being the good natural-born quarterback he was, took responsibility for some of those misconnections, specifically in that bad Miami loss, which is to say any Dolphins loss. But the one I mean is in November. There's room to grow. I think he'll get there, and that's a guy that I know the Patriots are counting on in 2025. Belgabad. I think this is a first. I would have just guessed this is some forgotten city in Poland, but this is someone writing on Blue Sky, which, again, follow me on Blue Sky. Belgabad, hello. I absolutely love the Herald piece. Well done. Thank you. And, of course, credit to Doug for this. The biggest name Belgabad is curious about. Now I think I mispronounced that. This is not good. Anyway, our dear listener is curious about the guys Doug and I did not mention, one of them being Javon Holland. On paper, loves Holland. Playing center field and dropping Duggar and Peppers into the box. Are the Patriots expected to be in on him? Javon Holland, one of the best free agents available. Patriots have a ton of cash. What do I think? I'll tell you after this short break.
Time out. Enough about free agency. Enough about the draft. No more mocks, no more rumors, no more whispers, no more mailbag. It is time to talk, not about football or anything like that. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, because when I'm not on this podcast and I'm sitting at home and I'm watching the Celtics, or it could be a hockey game, or it could be a baseball game. Sox are just around the corner. I am playing Prize Picks, and I am winning. And I would like you, as someone who supports this podcast, to win a little bit too. Because right now at Prize Picks, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash and run your game all season long. When you build your lineup, you know the deal. 2 to 6 players, all right? Every single time you go to Prize Picks, online or on the app, you'll see a player, and they'll have a stat. And all you have to do with your lineup is pick the player, go more or less on that stat. It could be Jason Tatum, 5 threes. If you think he'll hit him more than 5 threes, he's going to hit more. If you think Kristaps Porzingis will have less than 18 points, hit less. Boom. That's a lineup right there. So 2 to 6 player stat projections over at Prize Picks. Basketball, hockey, baseball around the corner. Of course, football will be back too. And when you sign up today, if you're a new customer, here's the best part. You get $50. 50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus 50. You just have to play. So sign up today. Download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and you will get $50 instantly with the promo code CLNS after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
What's going on, everyone? Taylor Cowles here for CLNS Media with a very exciting announcement. Here at Patriots Press Pass, we will be introducing bonus tiers. Now, this will not affect any of the content that hopefully you've grown to know and love over here at Patriots Press Pass. It's all going to be some brand new stuff and extras so we can connect with you more and also provide you some more in-depth and high-quality content. Hopefully, you guys are going to like it. Here are the tiers and what you should be expecting from all these new bonuses. At Tier 1, we've got Rookie Starter. That'll come with ad-free content, early access to videos, 5% off of all merchandise, and even custom emojis. At Tier 2, we've got All Pro. Once again, ad-free content, early access, 10% off merchandise, custom emojis, but that'll also come with player profile film reviews and draft profiles. At Tier 3, we've got GOAT status. Same as all the other tiers, but it's going to be 20% off of all merchandise, and we're also going to have custom segments, Discord chat rooms with myself and other show hosts, as well as live film reviews with myself and whomever we've got on the podcast for that day, hoping to have some pretty fun guests.
All right, we're back. My answer is no. And sorry for the dramatic pause there, just to get straight to it, no. But I wouldn't be stunned if they signed Javon Holland. I think they are banking on a better Kyle Duggar and a better Jabril Peppers for 2 very different reasons why their seasons got sidetracked last year. I've had conversations with Kyle since the season ended. Wrote a whole story about it. If you want to find details there you go. It's not that they suddenly can play free safety if they're healthier. Jabril Peppers is not in court. But the point is, there's enough depth and talent there that, yes, you might draft a free safety, as you suggest, rather than spending more money in a position where you already rank among the league's highest spenders there, given recent extensions for both Duggar and Peppers, because then you have less money to spend elsewhere, which I know it sounds a little nuts because of how much total cap they have. But the point is, you just don't want to pour that much money into all those positions, especially since this is a changing defense. The Belichick system, either under Gerard Mayo or Bill himself, love those box safeties. We still have to learn about what Mike Vrabel sees in his vision for those players. Okay, sorry, Cheeto. What made the Cheeto so sorry? I don't know why. Why can't this be a happy Cheeto? Can we have a chipper Cheeto? Can we have a mild Cheeto? What is Christian Barmore South? Okay, this is this is why he's probably sorry. Well, the Pats have reported interest in Milton Williams. With the reported interest in Milton Williams, with the presence of Barmore, Williams, and Keon White affect their willingness to draft Mason Graham? No, because right now Christian Barmore's health is an unknown. The Patriots, I can tell you, Doug can tell you, are confronting the possibility that his football playing days are over, and that sucks. Like there's no other way to put that. And I'm going to do the same thing any media person should. Not a doctor. I don't know. I can only tell you what Mike Vrabel said at the podium, what he told Karen Guregian in a one-on-one. Read that at Mass Live. What Elliot Wolf said. Barmer's working out in Tampa. They're going to have a check-in later this month before the team reconvenes on April 7th for OTAs, and they'll see. And privately, in speaking with agents who talk to the Patriots, Barmore's name comes up. Vrabel is, living outside of himself. He's big and energetic and waving his arms and saying this and commanding the room. But when Barmore's name comes up, he clammed up a little bit, which tells you they're not lying when they're telling us we don't know. So what am I going to tell you? I don't know. But also Mason Graham's really freaking good and also fits the prototype that they're going to want if he stays around 290 to 300. Milton Williams is 291. So they want to build in the trenches. That's obviously offense and defense. When you look at their lines last year and all the games we all watched, Mason Graham can help do that. Murph, why the Dan Moore aggression? Played 1,000 snaps in each of his first 4 seasons and top 11 in pass block. I assume that means PFF grade last year. Ronnie Stanley played 850 snaps last season, and that's the first time he's hit 800 since 2019. Moore is just 26, and Stanley is getting junk mail from AARP. I like that. Also, Kelvin Banks is the pick, winky face. So, Ronnie Stanley played over 1,000 snaps last year. I don't know where the net number is coming from. He did miss 2020 and 2021. That's a fact in a couple of games in 2022 and 2023. Moore is younger. I would just say ask a Steelers fan about Dan Moore. And when you look at his PFF page around some of the numbers you did cite, and if he's top 11 in pass block, that's news to me. But let's give you the benefit of the doubt. I know it was his best pass blocking season ever. You're going to see another number there that's in the double digits, and that's for sacks allowed. And I don't agree with a lot of some of PFF's charting. I always do my own for pressures, for coverage, for pass protection, all that stuff. But I'd have a hard time believing that their margin for error on that number is like 6. So if he only allowed 8 or 9 last year, and when I say ask a Steelers fan, you can just find complaints everywhere about this guy. The issue is he's just average, and he's still a better pass protector than run blocker. He is only 26. There's no aggression towards him. It's just to say a guy who entered the league as a 4th-round pick, hitting free agency now. Like, he's exciting to the Patriots fans because he's not Fedarian Lowe. I don't like a player's number one selling point, aside from the durability, which is excellent. Absolutely right. 1,000 snaps in each of his first 4 seasons. Being he has a different name and looks different. Like, it's just, he'd be fine. But he's definitively, to me, even with the difference in money and age, plan B. Kenny V, I think, set the record for longest mailbag question, which I have abbreviated here, but this is a good question. It gets also into the offensive tackle situation. He says, Rashawn Slater reset the 34-inch arm length standard for offensive tackles in 2021. Rashawn Slater went to Northwestern, drafted by the Chargers, I think 13th that year. When you look at the college landscape, it seems that Slater opened the door for programs willing to work with offensive tackles underneath the 34-inch threshold for arm length. And he cites a bunch of guys in this year's draft, Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Josh Connerly, as being examples of having around 33-inch arms, or in Campbell's case, a lot less. Have I heard anything from the league about Campbell being strong enough at tackle to be the player who resets the arm length barrier again? His relative athletic score would make you think he has a chance. Yeah, he's got a chance. And I'm not even going to do the low-hanging fruit, Dumb and Dumber line, which a lot of people misquote, by the way. It's not, so you're saying there's a chance. It's so you're telling me there's a chance. Yeah, I am telling you, Lloyd, Christmas, and Kenny V, that there is a chance that Will Campbell becomes a tackle. And I hope he does. Like, you don't get to where he is and not be as determined and fierce and stubborn and tough the way he is if you're not doing that the whole way in ways that we're not even seeing on Saturdays. I hope he proves us wrong on Sundays. Again, I just don't want to take the chance at number 4 that he falls in line with virtually every offensive tackle in recent history who has those measurements and ends up playing guard. So I don't think that he will reset the threshold. I do think it's a good point, though, that these, axioms and truisms and benchmarks that teams have lived by for so long. You cited the 34-inch arm length. This could be quarterback height. It could be, 3-cone times for receivers. As the players and prospects continue to get more athletic, as the 100-meter dash times come crashing down every 4 years or 5 years or 10 years, and we push the boundaries of evolution in real time, but specific, obviously, to football players, the understanding is, the learning is, that if you are elite in other different areas that can compensate for that arm length or whatever deficiency you're talking about, great, that's possible. That's possible in a way because those other areas where, let's use Will Campbell, offensive tackles 10, 15, 20 years ago, certainly 25, 30 years ago, are not as strong as him, not as fast as him. And they don't boast that whole combination, not to mention the quickness and agility. So they're becoming more common as players get more athletic. But the reason I say no is right now, Will Campbell would be a historic outlier, even recently in the last 10 years. At some point, you do have a bare minimum of a guy with 30-inch arms. It's just not going to play tackle in the NFL. And that's just what it is. In the same way that someone who runs a 4.7 is just not going to play receiver. And you might cite an example of someone who ran a 4.6, or Anquan Bolden was a 4.59. I don't know what he was. He was elite with his ball skills and his strength and his releases and his body control, all this different stuff. Okay. And even if that's becoming more common, there's a line that just cannot be crossed. So maybe it gets a little bit closer, but I think even that jump, as you describe it over the last 3 years, you're gonna bump into a wall. These are not going to be hurdles anymore. It's just going to be a firm cannot pass go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more quick ones. Andrew, hello. You sound very handsome and smart. How far back would you move back from 4 to give the Patriots enough darts to throw at improving the roster? I said this before, so I wouldn't go outside the top 10. And I'm not moving back, to be clear, because I just want as many picks as possible. If the Patriots have a list, and I will have a list for you again later in the offseason, if they have a list of players at number 4, where you still got 4 players left that you would like to take here, I'm not going past 8, right? And if that list is 6, well, then I'm not going past 10. But if it's only 2, then I'm not going past 6 to Vegas unless you know someone's coming up from a quarterback, then you go to 7. So that's my point. Like, how far would you go back? Not outside the top 10. It's not about more darts, though generally that's a good draft philosophy. You need good impact players, not only this season, but projected over the next 10 years. Those guys typically live in the top 10. JM, how many people ask a year if you're related to Jerry Callahan? This has slowed down, not because I think I've gotten the word out, but JM probably once or twice a year. And for the record, I'm not. A lot of Callahans you'll find in Massachusetts. We're not related. I've never met Jerry. So there you go. Ed, if given the opportunity to be employed by an NFL club, which one would you prefer? And which team would you avoid like the plague? Well, the second part of that is answering. They're both the teams that play at MetLife Stadium. No thank you, Jets. No thank you, Giants. The Cardinals were 32 in that NFL PA player report card, which obviously I'm not a player, but reflects ownership, investment, organization, all these different things. Patriots being 31, in case you missed it last week when that report was released. Teams at the top, Miami. I love South Florida. Call me crazy. And if you think so, then I fit in South Florida pretty well. Minnesota's at the top of that list. A lot of respect for Kevin O'Connell as a coach. Other teams, I'd like to go traditional because I'm just kind of an old school guy. Like Steelers are in there. And the Cowboys would have been higher in this list just for fun and what you mean to that market until it's very evident that Jerry Jones is just completely losing his grip on the franchise. So off the top of my head, you can throw the Packers in there too. And then I need to see Jim Harbaugh get to like an AFC championship game, but Chargers in there too. Same reasons. Warm weather, good stadium, well-run organization, at least for now, but the ownership is iffy. So does it sound like I should have prepared a few answers for you? Yeah, I agree. All right, 2 more. KS Patriots. Rumors. Do the rumors about a trade for Raiders tight end Michael Mayer have any legitimacy? They do in theory. I've not checked in on this. And even if I did, I'm not sure that the Patriots would offer this up because, everyone's all at the combine. If you're close in a deal, you don't want it to leak. And then the other team gets to ask for more. Like, people do tighten up in this week because they use their own intel as every team gathers from agents, from other teams, from reporters like me. Hey, what's going on? The fit, though, makes sense. And the contracts make sense. If the Patriots want to part ways with Hunter Henry after this year, and he's got 2 years left on his deal, they could. No problem. And Michael Mayer fits the system because he played in this system, excuse me, for Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas. So it's something I'm going to keep an eye on, but I have not heard anything to say, I should pre-write this article and then just wait for it to get confirmed and then boom, I can hit publish. And I'll tell you, though, there are free agents, a couple free agents who are like that. Last question. Michael asking, Elliot Wolf used the lack of information to explain poor results in the 2024 free agency class. How does he explain away the poor results relating to overpaying for his own players like Javon Holland and Ramondre Stevenson? So you'd have to ask Elliot, obviously, which, again, this gets to a point I make, I don't think often enough in the show. But when we talk about GMs and coaches who give us an honest answer, I'm speaking more about the media in the way that I don't like, but I include myself in this group. Media chastising the larger media is just like pretending you're not a part of it. Just irks me to no end. When I or other people complain about a comment like that, where Elliot Wolf explains the lack of thoroughness is something that happened last year and that they're going to learn from moving forward, and it makes him sound like he's lazy or to some degree, it's stupid is harsh, but either you don't know or you don't care, and either one's a problem. That's the point. And he's going to move on from it. I appreciate the honesty. I want to know what's what. I don't want to live in a world where all the people that we talk to, quarterbacks, GMs, head coaches, just cliche their way out of every press conference, out of every interview. And you should want that too. You should want to know what the people running your team, playing for your team, wearing your colors, representing you, are actually doing and thinking in an honest way. It's not always going to be the case, but that's what you should want. So when he does that, A, good. Appreciate the honesty. B, what the like, you have every reason to go, what the hell is going on? Okay? Supposedly they're going to move on. Great. So to answer your question, after 3 separate diatribes, I'll say this. Javon Holland's extension was something the coaching staff pushed very hard for last year. Gerard Mayo obviously coached Javon Holland. He was close with him, went on his podcast last summer. His former position coach, DeMarcus Covington, was the new coordinator. When Christian Barmore's health came up, and it was announced on a Sunday that he's dealing with blood clots, this is the first weekend of training camp. The very next morning, Javon Holland's agent, Jim Rosenhaus, showed up to Foxborough, and surprise, surprise, a deal got done either later that day or the following day. So their coaching staff was in there. Stevenson, I don't think, was a bad deal, and we all know the season he had last year. But when Vrabel gives him a pass, other people we've talked to privately give him a pass. And other folks around the league, by the way, go, he's a dude. He's one of their few guys who we're like, we need to circle him on the scouting report. I'm a little bit more inclined, but the fumbling is the fumbling. Like, that's got to get fixed. So I think there's a way Ramondre Stevenson lives up to the contract. That's why he's still here. And it's why Javon Holland, separate from scheme changes, is not going to be here. All right, that's it. We spent a lot of time together. It was great. I hope to see you Friday, again, 7 to 11. Me, Fitzy, Doug, Field Yates, Mike Reese, Devin McCourty, Bill Barnwell, Tom Kern, Megan Donalini, Taylor Kyles, and Michael Hurley. But what are you going to do? It's going to be a great time. Then we'll be back. Free agency. I have no idea when I'm going to find the time to pod and can come off my phone, which is not to say I'm going to have anything other than like 90 unread and unresponded texts to you. But the 2 that come through are going to be very helpful, and you'll hear from us next week. In the meantime, pre-agency party, come hang out, support cancer research, donate, get your Patriots questions answered, and I will see you then.